Hello and welcome to the Paris FinTech Forum Communities Programme. I'm Elliot Gotkin, I'm a journalist and with Laurent Nisri, co-host of this exclusive video interview series produced with the support of Solaris Bank, Rise and BPI France. Now, within the fintech payment space, there is a huge amount of variety with startups springing up to cater to every niche imaginable, from restaurants to healthcare to the burgeoning buy now, pay later space. Others are creating new infrastructure for banks and fintechs to use. One such company is Form3. The company's CEO is Michael Mueller, who joins me now. Great to see you, Michael.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much. So tell us more about Form3.
Well, Form3 is basically a company I started about 5.5 years ago. That was a few months after I left Barclays, where I was head of cash management. At Barclays, I was responsible for payments. I was responsible for the payment infrastructure that underpins the processing of payments, and I realized that a lot of the technology that we bought at Barclays was not very good, very old, and typically license-based and in data centers. And that's really where the idea came from to build an alternative to that, a fully cloud-native payment platform that processes payments in banks' back offices.
Okay, and you recently raised, I think, an additional $160 million, taking your total raised to 220 million, if I'm not mistaken. You've got Goldman Sachs and some of Britain's biggest banks as investors and customers. Is Form3 a unicorn yet? Okay, well, I read that you're now handling a double-digit percentage of all UK faster payments. Who are you competing against here? Is it the old technologies of individual banks that you were kind of dealing with at Barclays? And what does Form3 bring to the party that they didn't have before?
Process a lot of payments, and a lot of big banks are signed up to transfer all of their domestic payment processing onto our platform. So what we do is effectively we pick up a payment after the end customer has initiated it through whatever the device is. So it could be a mobile device, could be an electronic banking system, and we pick it up there, process the payments, hand it over to the clearing and settlement, and we do the same thing for incoming payments. So we pick them up from the clearing and settlement and basically process them on behalf of our customers. What's new about us is basically the way we use technology for this. So traditionally, these systems, they were sort of buried deep in the bowels of a bank's data center. They were based on a sort of a plethora of different license-based products that banks would typically buy from any of the big software vendors. But they had to assemble them, they had to customize them, and they had to make sure that they became resilient and with doing the job, which was incredibly expensive. So what we're doing is we pre-configure these environments. We run them in the cloud, in different cloud environments. We process payments in real time, 24/7, 365 on behalf of our customers. And what's great for us to see is that more and more large banks have actually signed up to transfer all of their domestic payments onto our platform. So as I said, we're processing a lot of payments. We're processing those payments in real time, and we're supporting the infrastructure around the clock.
And you are quite dominant in the UK now. I think you're expanding into Europe and you've got your sights set on the US. Tell me some of the other ways that Form3 might be expanding.
Yeah, so we're expanding in three different ways. One is geography, as you mentioned. We have a fully fledged service offering in Europe. We're quite strong in the UK, as you said, and we're going into other geographies, including the US. We're adding more functionality to the platform, more payment types, more processing steps. Anything that we can basically squeeze into a processing time of a few hundred milliseconds. But also we're looking to use the platform in different ways, and that's really specific to what we do. We have the payments of different banks on the same platform. Actually, all of our customers are on the same code base. which basically means gives us a lot of opportunity to look at data in a different way, to use data to prevent fraud, to connect those banks on the platform. So there's lots of opportunity in that space.
And if I'm not mistaken, Form3 employees were pretty much all working remotely even before the pandemic came along. Does that mean that you kind of had none of the challenges that most companies faced, but all the benefits of this kind of explosion in digitization?
Yeah, that's right. So from day one, we decided to become a fully remote company. We do have an office in London and another one in Amsterdam, but they're relatively small offices, and these days probably more places where people get together for meetings and workshops and stuff. So we figured out that in particular in the software space, software developers like to work remotely. It saves them the commute. They're in their environment. We do a lot of pair programming, and we've been highly effective when it comes to building software in a fully remote way. That was handy when the pandemic hit, and it didn't require us to make any changes really. We will keep this model. We're expanding on this, so we're going global, and that means we can hire software engineers and other members of staff in many more locations. So it gives us that flexibility to find the best talent around the globe. And
I think you mentioned, before Form3, you were at Barclays. Is this your kind of first venture into the world of startups, like founding your own company kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, clearly, if you'd asked me 6, 7, 8 years ago whether I would start a company, I would have said no way. By background, I'm a big company person. I've always worked in large organizations, and it was quite interesting when I then found myself in an office with a few colleagues, no infrastructure, and not a lot of funding 5 years ago. But the idea was very, very appealing, and I really thought that there must be a better way of processing payments in the back office. Yes, it is my only startup. I think it will be my only startup as well. I wouldn't say that I will become a serial entrepreneur, but I'm enjoying it, and it's great to see what you can actually do with technology these days. I'm a banker by background, so it's quite interesting for me to find myself in a position where I run a company with 150 software engineers. But I'm really excited every single day to see what you can actually do when you bring together smart product managers with developers, and I think it's one of the most exciting times for being in technology, to be honest.
And how hard or easy was it for you to take this leap from I guess a well-paid job in banking and your kind of career path laid out before you, and then kind of take this leap into the unknown?
It was indeed a leap into the unknown, and that's maybe a good thing because you don't know what's going to happen. So you take it step by step. So you kind of, you slide into this. And yes, it was a bit strange, as I said, 2 transitions really, from a very large company to a very small company, and from a bank to a technology company. And all of that happened at the same time. My main learning from that is that, from day one, you really need to surround yourself with like-minded people. So if you do it as a team, it gets so much easier. And I was lucky enough to come across some very talented individuals very early on. So we tackled this as a team, and that is good fun. So when you can actually sit down, think about what you want to do, raise some funding, and do it, that's a great day-to-day experience that we all had. And would I want to repeat it? I don't know, but I will say over the past 5 or 6 years, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Now the challenges are different. Now we're going international. We're building different structures within the company. We're just under 300 people now, which requires a different way of working. We're looking to grow that fast. We're adding a lot of people on a monthly basis to the platform. And that means you need to think about how you run a global business moving forward. You need to think about how you maintain culture in a fully remote environment, a fast-growing company. We're now in a situation where more than half of our staff we've onboarded since the pandemic hit. And those people have never met anyone from the company in person, which is a really interesting sort of challenge that we're tackling there. But it's going well, and I think we have a long way to go with that approach.
Okay, well, Michael, don't go away, because we're going to take a very quick break, after which we're going to continue our conversation with Form3 CEO Michael Mueller. Welcome back, and don't forget, if you're not already a full member of our community, everything you need to join can be found at www.parisfintechforum.com. Now, Michael, I've got a few more questions for you, so let's talk about the kind of ecosystem in general a little bit more now. I mean, fintechs are on a tear right now, pretty much all over the world, with valuations going through the roof. Inevitably, some of this exuberance will prove irrational. How far do you think we are from that point?
That's the $100,000 question, right? So if I knew that, I'd probably be a rich man. No, I think you're right. Some of the valuations that we're seeing seem unreal and way too high. And I've been around for long enough to know that when it seems too good to be true, then it typically is. And I think there will be a point when some of those companies will find it very hard to justify those valuations and create the returns required to make their investors happy. So yes, I think unfortunately there will be a time when we're going to see down rounds, when we're going to see companies struggle, and when we're going to see investors lose money. That I think will happen. How far that correction is actually away, I don't know. There is a lot of liquidity in the market still. I think across the board asset valuations are very, very high. So it might take some time for this to filter through. It will certainly take a long time until those companies that have raised a lot of money will get into trouble because they have a lot of cash, and that will allow them to build those propositions and onboard those customers that they need to justify the confidence that the investors had in the business in the first place. But it's a very interesting marketplace. As we come out of the pandemic, I think a lot of things will become a lot clearer. And we're watching this space. From a Form3 perspective, I will say that most of our customers are actually not fintechs. They're established large banks, and I think there the dynamic is somewhat different, and therefore we're feeling quite good about where we are as a company, also in this sort of emerging market environment.
Right, and you of course are a German. You're running a UK-based fintech. What was your initial reaction? I know it probably seems like ancient history now, but what was your initial reaction when the Brexit result came through? And what does it mean for the UK's fintech ecosystem now that the dust, to a degree, has settled?
I don't think the dust has settled yet. And I think the UK as a whole is still is yet to see the full impact of what has been decided in 2016 and implemented in 2020. As a German citizen, and I have a British passport as well, so I'm kind of on both sides of the argument. I will say I wasn't thrilled when the results of the referendum came through, and I still don't think it's a brilliant idea. I think it will mean that there will be more trade barriers. I think in the UK in the very short term we see a skills shortage, and that's not only for truck drivers. We see that as a tech business as well. At the moment, I would say less than a third of the tech talent that we hire is actually from the UK or based here, and that's not because we don't like the UK as a location where we hire people. It's more that we can't find them. And I think that is something that will need to be addressed. So if the UK wants to stay at the forefront of the technology business, in particular financial technology business, we need to make sure that we train more engineers, and that we create an environment where also non-UK engineers want to come to the country to support this ecosystem.
Okay, yeah, I guess finding the right talent when your talent pool has been shrunk somewhat, perhaps is one of the biggest challenges that is created, yeah. especially for fintechs. But Michael, I'm incredibly surprised, but I'm afraid we've actually run out of time. So I really just want to thank you, Form3 CEO Michael Mueller, for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thanks, Elliot, and it's a great chat. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, and I'll be back again next week with another big name from the world of finance and technology. We do hope you'll be able to join us again then. In the meantime, you can keep up to date with all the exclusive content from the Paris Fintech Forum Communities Programme via www.parisfintechforum.com. Hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.